the gentlewoman from California.
I now yield as much time as she may consume to the gentlewoman from Ohio, Mrs. Beatty, the chair of the Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion and the sponsor of this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, let me start by thanking the chair of the Committee on Financial Services, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, for allowing me to bring this bill before the committee and for her support, and also to the rest of the members on the Financial Services Committee. Thank you for supporting this bill and moving the bill out of committee unanimously with the vote of 57-0. And certainly to my colleague, Congressman Hill, thank you so much for your words and your support on this very important piece of legislation. My bill, the Expanding Opportunity for Minorities Depository Institution Act, or 5315, would formally establish and codify the United States Department of Treasury's Financial Agent Mentoring Protege Program into law. This mentorship program was established by the Treasury's Department under the Office of the Minority and Women Inclusion, otherwise known as OMWI, to facilitate the program, the relationship between minority-owned banking institutions and larger banks, which is very important and key to this piece of legislation, by helping minority-owned banks improve their capacity to better serve their community and their customers, and at the same time allowing larger banks the opportunity to expand their network and facilitate potential subcontracting relationships with their proteges, as well as receive credit under the Community Reinvestment Act. Talking about a win-win, Madam Speaker, for everyone, especially the communities served by these minority-owned banks who have been hurt most since the dramatic decline in the number of these institutions during the financial crises of 2008, which left many communities of color unbanked and underbanked. While there are no minority-owned banks in the state of Ohio, where my district is, this bill could help change that calculus. I know, because I remember when we had a minority-owned bank not far from my district in Dayton, Ohio. Madam Speaker, focusing on this issue is another important issue that will allow Congress to stand up and get something done, especially for African Americans and other minorities who find themselves unbanked or underbanked. Congress needs to incentivize and formally establish programs such as this to turn around this downward trend, because minority-owned banks have a history of making a difference in the communities. Let me just give you an example. Just a few years ago, the FDIC surveyed my district, Columbus, Ohio, and reported that 25.2 of those in that district were either unbanked or underbanked. Also, I wanted to be able to say to us that the Main Street financial institutions that provide mortgage and small business loans to communities that are often unbanked and underbanked. Just ask the people right here, African Americans right here in Washington, D.C., what it means to them. And finally, let me say, in fact, minority-owned banks originate a greater share of mortgages and small business administration 7A loans to borrowers in low and moderate income areas than non-minority-owned banks. They also originate a greater share of loans to minorities in general than non-minority-owned banks. That is why, Madam Speaker, it is so important for Congress to pass this bill to formally establish the Treasury Department's Mentor Protege Program so that minority-owned financial institutions can receive resources, as you've heard Congressman Hill say, training and technical assistance, as Congresswoman Maxine Waters has mentioned, from larger financial institutions to better serve their community and their customers. I am asking my colleagues to support this opportunity for this program and for H.R. 5315 to become law.